Yes, I'm trying to order Ozempic, not Ozempic. Ozempic. Yes, I'm fine with the weight loss. I want, bigger lips and boobs and butt. There's got to be a shot for that, right? I'll call back. Oh, hi. Sorry, I was trying to take care of some personal business. Anyway, I am so excited to be here with you for another episode of Auntie, where I bring the movers, the shakers, the change makers, and the people who truly inspire me. And today is absolutely no different. Wait till you see who I have here. Everybody say hello to Kyle from SoberDogs.com.
Well, hello, everyone.
Hello. We can put this down now. It's just a prop. It's theater.
It's theater.
Oh my gosh. So, Kyle, your last name is?
Ruggeri.
Yep. I didn't want to mispronounce it. SoberDogs.com. Now, listen, the fact of the matter, let's get it right out in the open. We met at our 12-step program, AA.
Exactly.
So we met there, and we began to hear each other's stories. Now, myself, I'm working on year 11, so I'm 10 years sober. This July, I'll be 11. And you?
7 years working on year 8. So 7.5.
So, and it's just been... It's been a great journey getting to it. This is the first time you're seeing me in drag.
In person, yes.
So, I appreciate you not being absolutely shocked, floored, and horrified.
No worries.
But it's just
wonderful.
Well, you're sweet. And what's so sweet is that when I am in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, not only do I feel the community, not only do I feel the presence of everyone there, but I have often been called Eddie. And what's so interesting is, as a little boy, girl, gal, girl, boy, fella, my name is Edward, but my family always called me Eddie. But everybody at AA instinctively calls me Eddie. And
that's what I call you,
I know.
Yeah.
And so in my phone, you'll text, hey, Eddie, what time do I have to be there? And it just makes me feel so seen, because there's no pretense of trying to be tough Ed.
Yeah.
And, I had to be such a masculine fella. And it's just such a beautiful thing. So we get to know each other. And I did not know. I had no idea that you had such a presence online.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yes.
As we both know, because there's, the anonymity of 12-step programs, I've kind of gone out of my way to not bring some of the outside stuff inside there, which, we both know that. So some people don't. They'll be like, I've known you for 7-8 years, and I had no idea you do some of this other stuff on the side with recovery. And it's that's okay, because there's a little bit of a separation there, but it often overlaps too, which is fine.
Well, when I tell you, you sent me your links and you told me the different things. You have over 700 videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
That are, I would say, changing lives. You have a TikTok presence with a couple viral videos on there.
Yeah, some's done very well.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's funny with some of the viral ones. I've spent hours making videos sometimes. You know this more than anyone. And it does okay. And some of the ones that have done phenomenal is 45 seconds. I'm sitting there. I'm in my basement. You can kind of see cat litter in the background. And I just tell
cat litter,
some true story about something that happened in addiction. And it's does very well, because it's just about being, I think being real. And being upfront with people.
Well, we just had another guest on the original Rev thing, and they were saying one Christmas they put up a video, and because they didn't have another one prepared.
Yeah.
And it was the most popular video that they posted.
That's incredible.
It's that same sort of thing.
Yeah.
So tell us your story. Tell us how you got to the point of being in this position of such positive influence in the recovery world. Give us a brief synopsis of your story and how you got to making these videos.
Sure. So basically, I got real bad into addiction. There was heroin and cocaine were my drugs of choice. It culminated. I went to prison for 3.5 years. Unfortunately, didn't do good things in there. Was doing a lot of drugs in there. Got out, got rearrested, and this time it was kind of that rock bottom moment we talk about. Went to a boot camp in New York for parolees, decided to change my life and, do all the things people ask, the counselors, the folks in 12-step groups, and listen to them. So I'm probably 3 months or so out, and I just was like very raw, but missing something. I'd run into a buddy of mine from elementary school's parents at Wegmans, and they'd be like, hey, so-and-so's doing great. He's got a job, a wife, 2 kids. He works at Paychecks, the Rochester dream, and they'd be like, how are you? And my brain, I'm thinking like, I'm freaking out. I live with my parents. I have no job. I have no money. I'm just trying to like survive day at a time, and stay sober. I just got out of prison. It was in the newspaper, but not like front page or anything. I don't know how much people know about the situation. And it was kind of eating me up. So I was like, always enjoyed public speaking. I minored in it in college. And I was like, I'm just going to share. I'm going to share my story and get it out there.
Right.
And hopefully it can help others. And I knew it was going to help me. And just put it out there. And then social media, is obviously one of the best places to do that. So it started with a blog, and then it transformed to YouTube and some social media. And it's just grown, over the last 7-8 years since I've been doing it. I named it Sober Dogs Recovery because I love dogs.
Right.
They're my biggest inspiration.
How many
motivation.
dogs do you have?
I just have one. I got him last Saturday, a new puppy.
You were telling me a new one, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're looking for a trainer.
Yes. Yep. Looking for a good dog trainer. If anyone, starting obedience classes next week, but it's just a group one. But I'd still love a personal trainer, personalized dog trainer. If anyone has any good recommendations that's listening.
Well, first and foremost, let me tell you my story about dog. I have 3 DUIs, and on my 3rd, I mentioned this in interviews and talk about this. I was arrested at noon, swerving from kids in my neighborhood. It was bad.
Yeah.
And, the next morning it was brought to my attention from my husband. We're at this point. And prior to that, I'm recovering on the sofa. And we just got a new husky named Max.
Okay.
And I'm waking up, coming to, and the dog is looking like right here. And I'm like, I'm just getting to know this dog. So I'd been traveling for shows.
Yeah.
And he had ripped apart all of my suitcases. He's never done anything like this. He's never touched anything in the house. He had everything all ripped apart, and he was just staring at me.
How long did you have him at this point?
We only had him for about like a few months.
Wow.
And from that moment on, he became my sober coach at home because everything had changed. I had lost my license for several years, and I started going to outpatient, and I went to AA.
Yeah.
And every day he taught me how to be in the moment. Dogs are miraculous that way,
Yep.
And so I'm sharing that story with you because of your connection with, Sober Dogs. And,
they're incredible.
Yeah.
They're just incredible.
Right.
Top to bottom.
Yeah.
Love.
So, I mean, he's 12 now. He's like, okay, gonna have to get another dog. We're gonna have to get another dog here for you.
Yeah.
No, he's great. But so what was the first video that sort of like connected with people?
One of them was I put a picture of fentanyl up, which, if anyone Googles just fentanyl, they have all the kind of a bunch of stock images, but it's the tiny amount. Basically, the one I did is a penny, and then covering just the date of a penny is enough to kill somebody. And I was pointing to it, sharing it, and it just immediately connected with people and did very well. And any type of video like that where I was really raw about things really connected. And that was a little kind of gap I noticed. There's a lot of like showing people inactive addiction, which is, controversial to some extent, some people, but it needs to be shown. And then there's kind of the beginning recovery and then as they go in. But there was this gap where it was like, what is somebody feeling the moment after they use? They don't want to use. What's going through their head, but they kind of have to because they're in withdrawal. The moment you get pulled over for that DUI, where we see it on cops or on TV, where like, oh my God, that person's a drunken idiot. But it's like, no, that person in their brain, there could be 1,000 things going through their brain. What just happened a moment ago? They're addicted to alcohol. They didn't want to drive. They need anything like that. So I was like, I'm going to get those little thoughts out too. And it really started to resonate with people. Just another video I did about how I was self-medicating and how I would sit there and take what the doctor gave me, but was going through my brain. I knew every second I shouldn't take twice the amount. I shouldn't. And I shared it like that with some captions, and it really resonated. And people in the comments are like, I've done that myself. I've taken my medication this way or that way. It escalated. And, so they could really relate. But those were a couple that really stuck with people from the beginning.
Well, I obviously couldn't watch all 700 videos, but the ones that I would watch, what I loved is that you have a presence. As you said, you gravitate towards public speaking, but you're sharing your experience, strength, and hope.
Yeah.
What you experienced, and talking honestly about the fact that the one that I watched, the latest one, was the fact that after somebody was brought back from an overdose, that they would go back out again.
Yeah.
And how families just don't understand. How could you have this embarrassing moment, say for me, was my drinking or Xanax.
Yeah.
You get to this point, you do these embarrassing things. You get arrested. How are you drinking again? Talk to the listeners again about, it really is, it just, what I liked about that particular one was that you, regardless of the shame, you explain there's this desire to numb, feel better, etc. You're going to say it better than I am, but...
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was mentioning a minute ago, something that is not talked about enough, one of those little gaps, so to speak. But for that exact scenario, somebody overdoses, and then they're using hours later, sometimes minutes later, and the family, everyone all around is like, it just doesn't make sense. How? Why? Specifically for, any opioid, one of the reasons is because when somebody gets Narcan, it immediately sends them into precipitated withdrawal. It sends them into withdrawal because the Narcan kicks all the opioids out of their system. So they wake up from the overdose, they're dripping sweat, they got chills, they have all the withdrawal symptoms. That's one reason, but also we know that there's so much shame and remorse around our addiction. I just overdosed. Now I'm waking up. People around me are judging, and in whatever scenario, family might be crying. That makes me feel 100 times worse. Now I feel even, shittier, so to speak, than, or worse than before. And it's like, all I knew for the past couple of years is drugs and alcohol to cope. I'm going to my coping mechanism, which is use again.
Right.
There was even a different scenario. There was a couple friends. One of them died from an overdose. The friends left the funeral and were using in the parking lot. This is some people I knew in Rochester, and the family just couldn't fathom how you are doing this. And I ended up speaking with one of the parents, a couple of years later, and it was like, that's their way of coping at the moment. Like, that's all they knew to numb. Not all they knew, but how they chose to, or unfortunately at that point, it wasn't a choice. So it may seem foreign or insane to a family member or the people that aren't in addiction, but it's not to us in active addiction.
Right. That's why it's so important, I think.
Yeah.
And what we both agree upon is that I do share that I go to AA. I do share that I've been in outpatient rehab. I do share that I find other things to put in what I call the card catalog.
Yeah.
Index cards of my life on how to deal with everything from success to failure to boredom.
Yeah.
What are the things that I can do to cope, to deal with things. And
I like that, the card catalog of life.
It's just really... and of course, going to enough meetings, you start to hear things that you may not have experienced yet, but that you may be able to put in that catalog to say, this person dealt with it.
Yep.
They lost their wife, their spouse, and they didn't drink. And what did they do?
Yeah.
What's your week? What are the things that keep you sober?
The 12-step programs we go to is a huge one. And for me, it's not just attending it, it's being involved. The connecting, because as a lot of us talk about, I can go to 12-step rehab, I can go to a million different things. If I'm not getting involved and being vulnerable with people, then, at least in my opinion, we're not going to grow. Nothing's going to change. So it's not just showing up. It's actually talking to people before the meeting and after the meeting. And we're both usually late, a couple minutes late. That's one of my weaknesses.
We're known for that. Yeah.
I'm always like 5-7 minutes late, but I'll try to make up for it by staying 15-20 minutes after, and just having conversations. Me and you have talked, a dozen times in the way more than that in the parking lot. And, hey, I'm having a bad day, or hey, this is going on. Sharing that with people. That's a big part of my recovery. Exercise is a big one for me. That's part of my coping. It gets energy out. It gets some anxiety out. Even if whether it's walking the dog or going to the gym or hiking with, a group of people, whatever it is, that's a big piece of my recovery as well. And then just kind of the daily check-in mentally, am I okay today? If not, who can I call? And I like to use the cards of life, and I kind of call mine like the Rolodex of recovery. It's incredible. I feel like there's at least, there's 2 or 3 people in every category of life I could call right now. If I'm having a relationship problem, these 2 or 3 people I connect with. If I'm having a financial problem, these 2 or 3 people, have been through it. And it's, get it out instead of just bury it like I used to. Well,
it ends up being about community, and that's what you've created with your videos, with your programs, with all of the social media. But you've taken it to the next level by going to speak in the schools. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that experience. I mean, you're speaking at high schools, colleges as well, or?
Yep. So high schools I do the most, and actually, give Recovery Fitness a shout out. I got connected with a lot of the schools through them.
Perfect.
And for whatever reason, they couldn't continue some of the obligations. So they contacted me separately and said, would you like to come? I said, of course, I'd love to. But I love doing that. It's so rewarding because I get to speak to 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. And that's exactly when things took off for me. So it's like, if we could, connect with just a couple people at that age, it really could make a difference. And it really kind of came full circle. It was about a year ago. I was actually at the gym working out. One of the kids who I spoke with the year prior, I see him there occasionally, and he came up and he's like, man, I wanted to let you know something. And I was like, what's going on? He's like, I was at a party last week and somebody offered me OxyContin. Because of your story, I said no.
Oh my gosh.
And
saving lives.
That's the type of stuff you see in a movie.
Right.
I almost, had a tear in my eye listening to it, because it's like, normally he probably would have gave into the peer pressure, but he didn't, because he's like, I remembered your story and you specifically said, don't worry about what others are going to think.
Right.
Just, you could do the right thing, and most people will forget 5 minutes later.
It's about that pause. It's that moment into the decision making. And it's life-changing. Yeah. Those moments where you can speak and share that experience, strength and hope, and give that opportunity for them. You'll be in their brain in that moment. Do you ever feel triggered? I mean, you're talking about a lot of the things, and the experience and what it feels like, which I think is very helpful. But I wondered when I was watching, is this triggering?
That's a great question. There's certain things that I will try to. So, for example, for IV drug users, one of the biggest triggers is the picture of a needle. One being a needle being used, every news station in the country has that stock image of a needle being plunged back. And it's a huge trigger. To this day, it bothers me. So that's something I make sure I never put in my videos. If I have a needle, it is blurred out. Things like that. In the beginning, the actual using stuff didn't bother me. The only thing that did was talking about solitary confinement.
Okay.
I did 12 months and 25 days in solitary confinement in prison. It destroyed me.
I can't even imagine. I mean, talk about strength.
Completely the most damaging thing of any part of my life. That would bother me a little bit, but I was kind of like, I'm going to keep talking with people like my sponsor and the therapist and work through it. And then doing the videos, it became a little bit easier and easier to work through it. And, again, how can I kind of get a little, I don't want to say control, but fight back against what happened to me? I can't change it, but I can get this stuff out and maybe help somebody else. So it gave me a little bit
from having that experience.
Yeah. A little more purpose behind it too, which helped push through it. But I do think about your question, and it's a great question and topic, is I don't ever want to trigger anyone, yet I want to be raw and real because it needs to be seen. And sometimes a lot of the viewers aren't inactive or in early recovery. I have a lot of parents that watch because they want to know about what's going on in addiction. So there's that balance of,
I asked the question because of just the fact that I watched you and tell your story in the rooms, and I would see you just really fully explaining this so passionately and saying what it feels like to experience a drug, and then what it feels like to withdraw from the drug, and then feels why it's better to not, of course. And I think to myself, like, it's very interesting, but it's the hard facts. It's the truth. And we can sugarcoat and tiptoe around things. You know, as an alcoholic, there's alcohol everywhere. Okay.
everywhere.
Everything that is being celebrated in life, I have friends who have literally said to me, well, what do you drink? Water? You know, I'm like, listen, you know the stuff that you mix your alcohol with? That's the stuff.
Soda?
Yeah. So it's just so interesting that if it's not talked about, if the education is not happening, then people are going to want to reach for it. They're going to experience it whether, one way or another. I think the education that's out there is brilliant. And I remember as a high school student watching people come in to talk about don't do drugs. Your brain on drugs, whatever it was in the 80s. I think it was an egg. And this is your brain on drugs.
Frying pan.
And I remember sitting there saying, I want to go to schools and do something like that when I get older.
Wow.
I just remember that. I didn't know what it was. And now I go to schools and I talk about, being yourself, expressing yourself, your gender. If you want to do drag, perform. And so I think it's such a valuable thing to have real people who have real experiences going into these schools when, whether it's a high school or college, when you really don't know where you're headed. And you're giving them such a beautiful experience. What would you say, when you post a video, what do you hope to happen? We always say we want this video to have the most likes. What is it that you hope when you post that video? Like, you press send or whatever, or upload. Like, what do you hope is going to come from it?
What I hope is going to come from video, and the most rewarding, of course, to me, and then to hopefully the person, is when either it's in the comments or like a DM later on will come, hey, I watched this video. This taught me about my husband's addiction, my wife's addiction. I didn't know X, Y, or Z was happening with them, and now I understand it a little better. Or somebody, I had a guy, this one kind of blew me away, and I feel a little uncomfortable too. Like when I don't want to give myself accolades or anything.
No, that's fine.
This guy the other day said, you've been like a father figure to me. I've been watching your videos for 7 years fighting sobriety, and he's younger than me. And I was just like, a father figure?
Right.
Like, who am I? I'm just, a guy just sharing a video trying to survive my daily life. But clearly it's had a huge impact on him. And stuff like that is the goal in the rewarding part. And then as far as a quote vanity metric, I look for the shares, because that means people are resonating and then sending it to others. So
absolutely. But I think it's what I was getting at was that those messages and the changing lives. I mean, I want to see you booked at colleges. I want to see you booked at high schools, and just continue to share your story. When people go on YouTube and they see your videos, they're going to be blown away if they haven't seen them already. And I guess the last two things I wanted to ask were, one, what's your life like now in sobriety? What are some of the gifts that you never thought you'd be having in your life?
Sobriety. I always was so nervous. There was a point in my life still during addiction where I was like, okay, I know I kind of have to change, but it just scared me to death. So I was like, okay, I'll get sober because I don't want my parents to bury a child, but I'll be miserable. And I knew I was like, I'm just going to be miserable because just like you said a minute ago with the alcohol, how can I do anything in life? I don't have a beer, drink, or smoke a joint. So one of the biggest gifts is sobriety is so much better than drinking and using. I thought that was having fun, which the last 8-9 years of it was no fun at all. The fun times in college here and there, but a lot of it was just destruction. And walking down out in the park, and I actually like see the forest and play with the dogs and things where prior it would have been smoke a joint before I go out there, maybe have a beer, speed through the walk to try to get through it to get back to more. So I guess being present's a huge one. And there's so many little gifts of, being able to grow in life. Trying to build a family, my girlfriend and the kids, and different things like that. And then there's so many little gifts. This might seem weird to people who don't understand it. You completely will. Things like when my mom comes over to my house, I don't have to run around and hide things.
Right.
These little, in the bigger pit, my parents can stop over anytime, where before it was like, oh, I got to run, hide liquor bottles, hide drugs, hide. It's like, oh, mom's going to let the dog out for me because I'm busy today. Great. There's nothing there I'm scared of. But the bigger piece of that is the web of lies is not there. I don't have the web of lies that is just constant anxiety. We know.
Yes.
All day long. It's like, oh my God, who did I lie to about this? Whose money did I steal for this? I got to lie to this one, and I got to lie to this lie and add this lie on. And it's like, oh.
I thought I struggled. I thought I had this anxiety issue.
Yeah.
I created the anxiety in my life.
Yeah.
I created it with the use of alcohol and the withdrawal, and then putting the Xanax on top of it, and then ridiculous amounts of caffeine to try to wake up to go to work or wake up to do things.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, the hiding and the lying.
Yep.
I may not have always been drinking, but I was thinking about it. I was planning the next one, or I was drunk.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where, as you said, it wasn't fun. I mean, certainly there was fun times. And that's the thing is, this is information for people if it starts to get out of hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it's so beautiful. And
So I always encourage the kids at the high school too, like, I'm not here to like the programs that, I was, a little later than you, but still they had some people come in like, you have a beer, you're going to die. You look aggressive. I'm not here to tell you guys are going to be adults, and many of you will be able to have some beers on the weekend and do whatever you're going to do. That's your life. My parents have a glass of wine with dinner every night. Great. Wonderful. I'm not here to say that. It's if it gets out of hand, if there's becoming problems, there's always help. There's always somebody who could relate and bend,
I thought the solution, I thought you had to get a prescription for AA. Like, I've literally had no idea that, in Rochester alone, I think we say there's like 500 meetings a week.
There's a huge recovery community. So blessed.
And I know it's everywhere, and now it's online, and there's so many places, and there are people like you sharing your story, and podcasts like this, right? Mm. So that's why I get so passionate about just openly and honestly talking about it.
Yeah.
For me, the fact that being grateful, I was constantly looking for what I didn't have, and then being grateful for what I actually have.
Yeah.
And then it ended up producing more. I never thought I was going to do a podcast, but because of being grateful for the speaking engagements, I was invited to a podcast here, and I was like, wait, maybe I can do my own.
Yeah. That's so
working
cool.
with some fantastic people. So,
would you ever thought you were going to be, on RuPaul's Drag Race then be on the...
Well, and the thing of it is, my first time was definitely in active use. And it was pretty terrible. And then the second time I was able to express myself so much more authentically. And you think, I never really thought drag was going to be the direction I went into. For me, it's a theatrical experience because I went to school for theater.
Okay.
And I get to create this character. But now I'm realizing I'm dressed as Mrs. Kasha Davis, but I'm really also Ed right now. So I'm Eddie and Mrs. Kasha Davis and Auntie and So it's just it's firing like on all what is it called?
All cylinders.
All cylinders.
Yeah.
It's I'm no longer having to hide anything. So that is such a joy in my life, and I'm no longer intimidated to be myself.
That's got to be such a gift.
It's a gift, and it a lot of that comes from sobriety.
Yeah.
Now, finally, I just want to ask, what would you say you want people to know about a life in sobriety, being sober?
Exactly what I just, to kind of reiterate what I mentioned a minute ago would be that it's not boring.
Right.
It's not. Society has taught us, you mentioned it, that we have to have these beer and alcohol and wine and this or that or whatever. That's not true. And I've had 10 times more fun in sobriety than I ever did. I would definitely like people to really understand that. And also just whatever you're struggling with, whether it's mental health, sexuality, anything, there's always somebody that can help. I always thought like my thoughts were unique. Anything I'm going through is unique. No one can get it. No one's dealing with exactly what there's a million people that have used the drugs I've done and gone to jail. And I just was too, I don't know, stubborn's the word, a little shame, a little stubbornness, a little everything. It kind of, no, I'll bulldoze through this like I used to do in football. I'll figure it out.
Right.
And it's like, no, I don't need to. There's people that are not only offering help, want to help. So yeah, it was a big key.
I love that. And it's so funny. You mentioned football. What was your position? What did you play?
The end.
Okay. I was a tackle.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, people will be like, what? Here's the thing. I wasn't very good. My mother said to me one time, she's like, Eddie, why do when you come home, your uniform is, not dirty.
Yeah.
They didn't put me in. I was picking up the ball going the wrong way. I was, all that kind of stuff. I wanted to be the announcer. So I got to do that in high school, and I started to find my way towards theater. But I was bullied in high school for being myself. And I was, one of the things I love about the community that we have in recovery is that we have all different walks of life, all different genders, all different ages, all different skin colors, everybody, different experiences, and even political views. And we can all gather together. We're there and we're lovingly supporting one another. We're listening to one another. As you said, we're seeing one another and we're seeing ourselves in one another. And to me, this is a great experience because, I'm assuming you were good at football.
Yeah, I played in college.
Okay,
so,
right. Yeah. So I wasn't so good, right? We wouldn't have gotten a lot. Maybe there's a possibility you were one of those guys that's like, oh, he was the fit guy in school that was great. I don't know you from that time, but it was like I would get intimidated to have a conversation with somebody like you. And to me, this is an example of the type of progress that people in the LGBTQ plus community can have is to, see yourself and give people a chance. Mm-hmm. Your kindness is obvious. I see it in the rooms, and I'm so glad that you came here today to share the story. And I hope people, jump online and I think YouTube is probably the strongest presence, right?
Yeah, YouTube. And if I could say real quick to that point, vice versa is I was friends with everyone in high school, but would have been, intimidated to an extent to go up to you because if you are doing all your things, I would have been like, wow, he's just so free with everything where I thought I had to fit into this mold of you got to act this way because you're playing football. You're the captain of the team. You got to, you don't dance this way or you don't go to a party at this way. So it's an interesting dynamic too, where it wouldn't have just been a one or, I like the announcing, that's awesome. I would have never done it, even though I love voice stuff and public speaking, just because it didn't fit in the alley of I'm playing. I got to fit this way. So
it's so funny.
That's his separate, places, which it doesn't need to be that way. We could have had a great conversation, and it's wow, I connect with you, you connect with me in so many different deeper levels.
And it's interesting. We put those insecurities on ourselves, and then maybe we're going to reach for. The anxieties, and we're going to reach for something to take it away.
Exactly.
And so, I love that you mentioned, I kind of knew that would be the answer is that, you're young, you're fit, people are going to look at you and be like, oh, I want to be like him. You walk down the street and they hear you're sober and they're like, oh, is he having a good time? Is life good? Life is great. Yep. And I get to hear more about your growing family, and that's just unbelievable. And to take that difficult time in life and to share it with students when that was when it started to be a reality for you is what it's all about. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you
for joining.
And everything you do. Well, you gave me accolades the whole time. Your platform and who you share, so many different people you connect with in your live shows, and people are just laughing and smiling, and it's incredible.
Well, thank you.
Incredible.
My favorite thing to do now, because I'm getting older. I like to work out. I like to stay fit, but I'm achy as I got older. And now my thing is I find some of the ladies in the audience and get them to dance. And yesterday I danced with woman who's going to be turning 101.
Wow.
And she was a better dancer than me. I was like, girl, you got it together.
You're getting it.
All right, let's see. What dad jokes do you have as we wrap up?
All right. Well, I picked this one because of a little bit of what we talked about. Why did the picture go to jail? It was framed.
It was framed.
Yep.
Okay.
And this one just, I don't know, it caught my attention. I liked it. Why didn't the Melons get married?
Why?
Because they can't elope.
But honeydew, yeah. Okay, so this is my favorite. Why was Cinderella thrown off the basketball team?
Something with the ball.
Yeah, she ran away from the ball.
Ran away.
But the adult version is, what did Cinderella say when she got to the ball? Sorry, I had to do it. Okay. Thank you so much for watching, Auntie. We're so glad that you were here, and I hope that you tune in again. We're going to have some more fabulous, inspiring guests, and we're always so grateful for everyone here at Rock Vox Recording. Until next time.